My name is James, and I live in Savannah, Georgia, where there are lots of old cemeteries. They say ghosts like to walk around here because it's one of the oldest towns in America. I didn't believe in ghosts. Not really. But that changed after what I saw in the mirror. It happened last October, right before Halloween. My mom works for the Parks Department, and she takes care of Colonial Park Cemetery in the city. One day, she let me come with her while she checked on a broken fence. She told me to sit on a bench and be good while she worked. That's when I saw it. Leaning against a crumbling mausoleum, one of those little stone houses where really old people are buried, was a mirror. It was cracked down the middle and kind of dirty, like it had been there a long time. The frame was black and twisty, and there were tiny pictures of skulls and roses on the edges. I don't know why I walked up to it. It didn't even look pretty, but something about it made me feel pulled. When I looked into the mirror, I saw myself, but there was something wrong. Over my shoulder, I saw a pale, cold hand, just sitting there, fingers like white worms, resting on me. I froze. I turned around fast. No one was there. I looked back into the mirror. The hand was still there. I screamed. My mom came running, and I told her about the mirror. She looked into it but didn't see anything. She said I had a good imagination and we were leaving. But then she looked again, and she got very quiet. She called the city office, and the mirror was taken away by two men wearing gloves. They said it was just trash. But I heard one of them whisper, "It's that mirror again." I didn't know what that meant, but I did know this. I never wanted to see it again, except I did. Not the mirror itself, but what it showed me. That night, when I brushed my teeth, I saw it again. The pale hand on my shoulder in my bathroom mirror. I screamed and ran to my mom. She checked behind me, looked in the mirror, and said there was nothing there. But when I asked her to check the mirror in the hallway, she wouldn't go near it. She said, "Don't look into mirrors at night, James. Just don't." I had bad dreams. I saw the hand open slowly, like it was getting ready to grab me. In the dream, it squeezed my shoulder, and it felt ice cold. The next morning, I found a fingerprint on my arm, not like my fingers. Longer, thinner, like a skeleton's. I showed my mom. She didn't say a word. She just took down every mirror in the house, even the little ones. After that, things got worse. Every time I passed a glass window, I saw it. Every time I looked into shiny water, like in the sink or bathtub, there it was, the hand, always on my shoulder. One night I was lying in bed when I heard something tap, tap, tap. It was coming from my closet mirror, the one Mom had taken down and hidden behind boxes. I got out of bed and peeked through the door. The mirror was foggy, like someone was breathing on the other side. And then, a face appeared. White, smiling, upside down. I slammed the door shut and cried. Mom moved us out of the house the next day. She said it was because of the plumbing, but I knew the truth. It was the mirror. We live far away from that cemetery now. But even here, sometimes in the car window, I still see it. That hand, that same pale hand. It never hurts me, but it's always there. And sometimes, I feel it for real, just resting on my shoulder, like it's waiting. So if you ever go to Savannah and you find a cracked mirror near a stone house with no name, do not look inside. Because once you see the pale hand, it never goes away, and sometimes it grabs back. Duh. My name is Oliver, and I want to tell you a story. I was 24 years old when something very scary happened to me. I still get chills when I think about it. I got a job one winter as the only caretaker of a big, quiet cemetery in Bar Harbor, Maine. The cemetery was really old, with cracked stones and mossy graves. The job said I'd get a free little house, and all I had to do was keep the place clean and watch for trouble. I thought, that's easy. I wanted to save money for school, and I didn't believe in ghosts or anything like that. But now, I believe. When I got there, the lady from the park's office gave me the keys with a weird smile. She said, "The last caretaker left, for health reasons." But she wouldn't look me in the eye. The house was tiny. It had a bed, a bathroom, and a little kitchen. It smelled like bleach and old socks. But what was really weird were the locks. There were deadbolts on every door inside, even the bathroom door. Why would someone need to lock themselves in at a cemetery? I found an old notebook on the counter. The last caretaker had written in it. At first it was boring stuff like mowing schedules and when to plant flowers. But then, it changed. He wrote things like, "Scratching in the east wall again. Noises in the walls. 3 a.m. That night, I tried to forget it. But on my 6th night, I heard it too. Scritch, scratch. At first I thought it was mice, but the sound would follow me. When I went to the kitchen, it scratched there. When I went to the bedroom, it scratched there too. Mice don't do that. A few days later, I found a door in the basement. It was behind an old shelf. The walls were stone, but this door was shiny metal with a big padlock. The key on my ring said drain. So, I opened it. Behind the door was a dark tunnel. It smelled like old wet dirt and metal. The walls were lined with creepy pipes. It looked like something lived down there. I closed it right away. That night, the scratching got louder. And then, tap, tap, tap. It was soft at first. Then it got faster. I turned on the radio to cover it up, but I still heard it under the music. My phone worked fine outside, but inside the house, once the sun went down, no signal, 0 bars. I even tried standing at the window. The second I stepped inside, gone. Things started to move. My pocket knife disappeared. I found it days later behind the toaster. A sock went missing. I found it stuffed into a vent, all wet and torn. I got scared. I started locking every door behind me, even when I just went to brush my teeth. One day, a delivery guy dropped off a package, but he left it at the main gate, a quarter mile away. He said, "Company policy. We don't go near that house." I asked why. He said, "The last guy who worked here, he was weird, said he saw things, heard things, scared my buddy real bad." That night, I heard something terrible. I was brushing my teeth when I heard giggling. It came from behind the bathroom wall, not laughing, giggling. Tiny giggles. I froze. I listened. It kept going for 10 seconds, then stopped. The next morning, I saw muddy spots on the floor, right behind the toilet, like little footprints, small footprints. Then, the snowstorm came. I was trapped for days, so I decided to check the tunnel again. I brought a flashlight and a hammer just in case. When I opened the door, the smell hit me, strong copper, like blood. The tunnel looked like it went forever. The pipes were big enough for someone to crawl through, but I didn't crawl in. I just took pictures and locked it back up. That night, I woke up at 3 a.m. again. But this time it wasn't scratching. It wasn't tapping. It was whispering. Right outside my bedroom door, many voices, tiny voices, like kids talking, but fast and quiet. I covered my ears and waited. When I woke up, there was a trail of dirt. It went from the basement door to my bed. Little boot prints. That was it. I grabbed my bag, left a note that said personal health reasons, and ran through the snow to the road. I walked 2 miles before I got a ride. I never went back. They called me, asked why I left. I didn't say anything about the whispers, or the footprints, or the tunnel. I just said, it was too lonely. But I know the truth. Something was in that house. Something small, something hiding in the walls, and I hope it doesn't follow me now. My name is Henry, and I want to tell you the scariest thing that ever happened to me. It happened when I was just 5 years old. That's why I never go near churches anymore. Not ever. My daddy used to help dig graves at a big old cemetery in Savannah, Georgia. He wasn't always a grave digger, he built houses too. But sometimes the priest at the church would call him when someone needed to be buried. Daddy said it paid extra, and we really needed the money then. One day, Daddy got a phone call. The priest needed him to finish digging a grave that same afternoon because the other worker had gotten too hot and sick. Mommy couldn't watch me that day because she had to take my baby sister to the doctor. So Daddy said, "Henry, you're coming with me, buddy." I packed my favorite toy, my purple game monster game, and we drove through the sticky, hot Georgia heat. The sky was super bright, and the air felt like a wet sponge. When we got to the cemetery, the priest was waiting in a little cart. He looked worried and said, "Sorry, we're short today. Can he stay in the chapel?" He pointed at me. Daddy looked down at me and said, "You go sit in the chapel, okay? Don't wander around. I'll be right outside." I nodded and said, "Yes, Daddy." The chapel was small, white, and quiet. It had wooden benches called pews, and pretty glass windows that made the light turn red and blue. It was so cool inside, like walking into a freezer after being in the oven outside. I sat down and took off my shoes, then turned on my game monster. The little beep echoed in the empty church. It felt kind of funny to play a monster game in a place that smelled like flowers and candles. I was catching a ghost fox creature and trying to level it up. Then, I heard something. Creak. It came from the hallway on the left. The hallway was dark. I thought maybe it was the priest walking around, but when I looked up, no one was there. Then I heard it. "Come here." It wasn't loud. It sounded like a whisper. A soft, sneaky whisper. I froze. My hands got cold even though it was hot outside. I peeked down the dark hallway, but I couldn't see anybody. "Is that you?" I called out, my voice shaking like jelly. Nothing. I tried to tell myself it was just the air conditioner, or maybe my game made a weird sound. So I went back to playing. But then, "Come here." Louder this time. Closer. Still in the dark part of the hallway, but I still couldn't see who said it. I saved my game, because even scared kids don't want to lose their progress, and shut it off. I slid to the end of the bench staring at the hallway. My tummy felt like it was full of wiggly worms. "This isn't funny," I said. "I'm gonna tell my daddy." Then, thump, thump, thump. 3 huge footsteps, not from the hallway. They were right in front of me, but no one was there. I screamed and covered my ears, eyes shut tight. I felt something standing there, right next to me. I waited and waited. Nothing. Then I peeked. The church looked normal again, just benches and windows and sunlight. I started to breathe again, thinking, maybe I imagined it. Then, "Come here," whispered right in my ear. I could feel the breath. I dropped my game and ran, barefoot, right out the doors into the cemetery, screaming and crying. "Daddy! Daddy!" I yelled. He came running fast with a shovel in his hand. "Henry, are you okay?" I was crying so much I couldn't even talk right. "Someone in there," it said. "Come here." Daddy looked at the church, then at me. "Stay here. Don't move." He went to his truck and grabbed a baseball bat. Then he walked into the chapel all by himself. I waited by the gate. I was so scared. I thought the whisper thing might grab Daddy and drag him away forever. But after a while, Daddy came back. He was holding my game monster. "No one was in there," he said quietly. "Doors were locked. I checked everywhere." "But it whispered to me," I cried. "Right in my ear." "I believe you, son," Daddy said. "Sometimes old buildings make weird noises." But I knew that wasn't it. Buildings don't walk right up to you, and they don't whisper in your ear. Hi, my name is Officer Jimmy. I used to be a police officer, and I had a very scary place I would go to eat my lunch. It was a quiet little graveyard at the edge of the woods in Cades Cove, Tennessee. I didn't go there because I was being silly. I went because it was quiet. There were no noisy radios or people calling me, just birds, trees, and graves. One day, a long time ago, I went there like usual. I parked my police car and took out my sandwich. It was turkey. I really like turkey sandwiches. I sat in my car, eating slowly, looking at the gravestones. Some were really old, from the 1800s. The sun was going down, and the sky looked orange and purple. Everything was calm, until I heard a sound. It sounded like a cough, but not like when you're sick. It was deeper, scarier, like something big was coughing. I stopped chewing and looked around. There were no people, no animals, just headstones and grass. Then I heard it again. A big cough, followed by heavy breathing. It was getting closer. "Police!" I shouted, just like I was trained to do. "Show yourself!" But nothing answered, only silence. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out of the car. The flashlight's beam danced across the graves. Just trees, just grass, just tombstones. Then, something moved. I turned my light toward it, but nothing was there. I was about to turn around and leave when I saw something terrifying. 2 big, glowing eyes, and they were way too high. I'm a tall man, 6 feet tall, but these eyes were at least 10 feet in the air. There was nothing tall enough to stand on. The graves were flat, no statues, just grass and sky. I froze. Then the eyes vanished. My heart was going thump, thump, thump. I turned my head to look behind me for just a second, and when I looked back, the eyes were now to my right. They had moved, but I hadn't heard anything. No footsteps, no rustling, just eyes in the dark. I didn't follow my training. I ran. I jumped into my police car, shut the door, and drove away. I didn't even finish my sandwich. I didn't tell anyone. What could I say? That a tall, invisible thing was watching me? I found a new lunch spot after that. A quiet parking lot behind an old, empty Walmart. Not as pretty as the graveyard, but at least nothing looked at me from the shadows. Then, after a few months, things changed. A new boss came to the police station and made rules. No more breaks in hidden places. We had to stay where people could see us. But one night, I just needed some quiet. I was tired. It was almost midnight, and the graveyard was calling me. Just a few minutes, I told myself. Then back to work. The sky had a half moon. The air was cold. I could see my breath. I parked in my usual spot and unwrapped my dinner. Meatloaf. I like meatloaf cold, don't ask me why. The heater was on. The radio was quiet. Everything seemed normal. Until heavy footsteps. They were outside, walking around my police car. They were slow and loud, like boom, boom, boom. I turned off the radio. I grabbed my flashlight. I rolled down my window, just a little, and shined the light out. Nothing. Only headstones and frosty grass. Then the footsteps stopped. That's when I heard it. Scrap! Something scratched against the back of my car, like fur or cloth rubbing metal. I spun around in my seat and shined my light through the back window. And I saw it. Big, brown, furry. It wasn't a person. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a coyote or deer. It was something else. It ducked down, hiding behind my car. I dropped my flashlight. I didn't even think. I drove away as fast as I could. I looked in the mirror, but nothing was there. Nothing. Just the empty graveyard. But something had been there. Something that was tall enough to look in my window, and big enough to scare me to my bones. I never went back. Not once. Sometimes I get calls near that graveyard, but I never go alone, and never at night. People say monsters aren't real, but I saw something I still can't explain. And maybe sometimes monsters are real. Hi, my name is Teddy, and something really scary happened to me last year in Savannah, Georgia. I was 19 years old, and I didn't go to school anymore. My parents told me I had to get a job or I couldn't live at home. So I found a job working as a nighttime security guard at a real cemetery. Yep, a place with tombstones and people buried underground. Dead people. The job was easy. I just had to sit in a little office by the front gate and make sure no one messed around with the graves. Every 2 hours I had to walk around with a flashlight and check things out. The first few nights were super boring. I just sat there watching videos on my phone and eating snacks. It was so quiet and kind of creepy, but I wasn't too scared. Not yet. One night, my two best friends, Danny and Mila, texted me. "We're bored," Danny said. "Can we come visit you at work?" I said, "Okay, but come after midnight so no one sees your car." A little after midnight, they showed up with chips and soda. We were laughing and talking in the little office. Danny said, "This place is creepy. I don't like being near all these graves." We talked about school and jobs and boring stuff. Then, we heard it. A scream. It was loud, and it sounded like a woman. Ah! We all stopped talking. My heart was pounding. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. "Yes!" Danny said. "What was that?" Mila stood up fast. "We have to check it out," Danny said. "Are you crazy? That's how people die in scary movies." But I was the guard, so I had to check. I grabbed my flashlight and said, "Come on, we'll all go." The night was foggy, and the fog moved between the tombstones like ghosts. We walked toward where we thought the scream came from. "Hello?" I called out. "Is anyone there?" But nobody answered, just silence. We kept walking. It got colder and darker. Then Mila pointed. "That way. I think it came from that part." We walked into an old section of the cemetery. The tombstones there were broken and crumbling. Some had fallen over. The names were so faded you could barely read them. I pointed my flashlight at one and read it out loud. "Crane, beloved daughter, 1802. Danny whispered, "Can we please go back now?" I nodded. Yeah, maybe it was just a cat or something. But deep down, I knew. No animal screams like that. We walked back fast. I locked the office door. None of us felt like talking anymore. Then we heard it again. "Help me!" A scream, followed by crying, sobbing. Danny stood up. "Nope, I'm leaving." I grabbed his arm. "Wait, what if someone's really hurt? I have to check again. It's my job." He didn't want to go, but I said, "You want to walk to your car alone?" So we all went again. This time, we followed the crying. It sounded closer and sadder. It led us back to the same old graves. Then Mila screamed and pointed. There were legs, human legs, lying in the grass between two tombstones. No body, just legs, in a white skirt, soaked in blood. I felt like I was going to faint. Danny ran to the bushes and threw up. Mila was frozen like a statue. I called the police. My hands were shaking. I could barely talk. The lady on the phone said, "Go back to your office. Officers are on the way." We ran. None of us spoke. We sat in silence, shaking, like we had just seen a monster. 15 minutes later, 2 police officers showed up. I ran out to meet them. We saw legs, human legs. There was blood. "Please, come with me." They followed me back to the spot. But when we got there, nothing. No legs, no blood, no white skirt, just grass. The officer looked at me. "You okay, son? You been drinking?" "No, I swear we all saw it." He didn't look convinced. I said, "My friends are in the office." They saw it too. So we all got questioned separately. The police said we matched our stories, but with no evidence they couldn't do anything. They said maybe we imagined it, maybe we were tired, maybe it was just shadows. But I know what I saw. There were legs, a woman's legs, and blood, lots of it. To this day, I don't know what happened, but I never went back to that cemetery. And when the wind blows at night in Savannah, sometimes I swear I still hear it. "Help me!"